Oh, best of 3, and it is DVT. In the bottom left, we have Basilisk's Reynor. Because they have a GG on their clan. I always want to say gaming. In the top right, we have Kaizi Gaming's Spirits, who is always a Terran. So Reynor is off-race Terran. As said before, I'm not sure where he places his off-race, if he thinks his Terran or his Protoss is better. I want to say that he would off-race more as Terran, just from what I remember, but I don't keep track. And just because he plays it more doesn't necessarily mean that he's better with it. Even before someone says, you know, Protoss was just an easy race. Well, yeah, okay, there is that. It's also just kind of what players gravitate towards, right? You play a lot of one race and then find the other race surprisingly easier and then wonder if you've wasted 6 years. Or if the other race is actually just easier. But anyways, no matter how good he is at Terran, whether it's his second best or third best, he should not win against Spirit in TVT. It's just a fact. He should not. He should not. Spirit is going to have the slight annoyance of having to face a random player, but as I always scoff at the Terrans on ladder who get all pissy about playing against random, I shall scoff at the viewers, or perhaps Spirit himself, if he said, well, I'm just inherently disadvantaged. I don't really think you are. I think Reynor is going to have more trouble against you. Now, if Spirit argued for that, I guess, in TVZ, because Reynor is very good with Zerg, and Spirit could possibly be doing an unideal build against Zerg, then I could kind of get it. But basically, what you should do as a Terran player is 1x expand versus random. And while that does put you in a slightly more precarious position against a cheeser Terran, so another Terran doing a 2-racks, you scout. You literally scout. Like, we have gone through metas where Terrans 1-racks expand with a scout, and they still defend proxy 2-racks. It is possible. It's not ideal, and your whole follow-up does have to be rearranged, but it can happen. So I really hope that Spirit is cool, and he's just like, yeah, you know, it's a little annoying that I have to scout and 1x expand instead of factory expand, but it's fine, because it really should be fine. It should be absolutely fine. Either he faces the guy as Zerg and he has a fine build, or Protoss and it's still a fine build. Maybe he did win a factory expand versus Protoss, maybe not, who knows. But even against Terran, he's fine. He is absolutely fine. It's a Terran, he's not even 2-racksing him. Reynor did not cheese. They would have been a little too on the nose, personally. He's going into a very typical TVT factory expand. So theoretically, he gets what a Terran would want to do, because nowadays the meta does say factory expands are better, not just because of their ability to defend against 2-racks is better, but because of their variety of follow-ups. The threat of whatever they're doing, whereas the 1-racks expand player is a little less threatening for a while longer. But again, I think Spirit's fine. I don't think that's enough to say that random players have an advantage. So what happens from here on out? Reynor could have played a more control-like TVT. He could have gone into a medevac drop or into a big push, and Spirit would have to react to everything as he is the 1x expand player, but Reynor didn't. So when Reynor doesn't do anything with his factory expands, here's the downside to a factory expand. He falls behind. He falls behind in the workers, right? So he's down by 3 workers. Might not seem like a huge deal, but if you keep in mind that it's 3 workers over 2-3 minutes, whatever it is, then that can sound like a very big deal. You do ideally, as the factory expand player, once you realize that the guy is being a little greedy, you want to try and do something with whatever units you did build to try and stab them. Get in the natural, kill 2 or 3 SCVs, because that would even you up. In this case, Reynor just stayed at home. So it's already favoring Spirit. Reynor literally doesn't even know that Spirit is doing this. And I mean, I get, like, I don't know where Reynor is thinking a Terran versus a random player would go. I personally would expect Spirit to always 1-rax expands. Maybe Reynor is thinking he's going to factory expand every single time, because I guess technically a factory expand could work versus Zerg, and definitely works versus Terran and Protoss. But that just sounds, because it really is not done versus Zerg. So I like trying to guess if Reynor knows the 1-rax expand or not, and I just can't tell you for sure. He certainly doesn't know via scouting. Whether he's presuming or not, I don't know. At this point in time, since there has been literally no action from either side, it would have been possible for Reynor to think, now, okay, it must be 1-rax expand, like it happened. Spirit, of course, got a scout, knew it was a factory expand. Over time, has realized it's been a passive factory expand. And he's trying to get some type of follow-up scouting to see what exactly Reynor's plan is, because Reynor does have something going now. So initially, I was saying, hey, this is actually a problem. This is a problem. You are falling behind because your factory expanded and do anything to your opponent. Well, here's the actual conundrum. Reynor is going for a 2-base build versus Spirit, who has gone into a very typical and expected 3-base build. Now, Spirit might not even be thinking of scouting for a 2-base build. They are very uncommon. They happen maybe 10, 15% of the time. A couple of Terran players do this more than others. Like Oliveira still, to me, is a guy who will do this. But they're rare. So Spirit, he is missing some scouting. He is missing a very important fact, which is that he is going to be bombarded by army, left, right, and center, potentially. And he doesn't know that. So he doesn't know where to put his army. He doesn't know how much he should defend. If you know for a fact, as Spirit, that you're facing a 2-base Terran, you really need to turtle. You need to wait until you have your own sim and combat shields, and then you should be able to take advantage because you have a healthier economy. You have, I believe, more tanks, right? Higher tank count, and should favor you then. But initially, the 2-base player is very scary. Now, I'll say this: it doesn't make much sense to do on altitude, which is our largest map. But why would they do that? It's so silly. Well, that's why it worked, right? There is always that to think of. Plus, Reynor might just be thinking he needs to do something very off to catch Spirit off guard, which he's not wrong about that. At this point in time, big army with a medevac already available. Spirit doesn't know about the medevac, of course, just sees the sensor tower. That doesn't necessarily say it's a 1-base attack yet.
Ready for dust off.
He doesn't know about the 2 medevacs. If he saw the 2 medevacs as well, which I don't believe he did, he might have figured it out. He might just think this is going to be like what Hearmering did to him, which is on 3 bases, by the way. So he has his Vikings covering his natural. His main base is covered by 2 missile turrets, and then his army can stay at his 3rd base. This covers him very well against a 2-base player, and also would have covered him against exactly what Hearmering did in their last TVT. So I still don't know for sure that Spirit figured out at some point that Reynor was 2-base all winning, because to me, there's not much saying that he did. But maybe I missed something. I'm thinking he just knew he was going to play defensive. I'm thinking he just figured there's no way I lose in a mid-game TBT against this guy. I think he's right about that. Main base was dropped upon, kills 13 SCVs, but is being responded to. Main attack does not find any wiggle room, although it does kill 1 Viking. And 13 SCVs is not enough. Not enough damage. Spirit still ahead by 2 workers, obviously has a 3rd orbital, whereas Reynor's only is just now finished as a command center. And Spirit even has a 4th base about to finish up anyways. So Spirit has all the advantages, as he also has better upgrades. Combat shield's about to finish as well. He's got a drop that Reynor doesn't know about, although there are units defending, so it looks like he's at least anticipating something like this. Uh, 1-1 does defeat 1-0. So that was the problem there. Even though combat shields was not yet done. There's also, I guess, another medevac healing and a cyclone and all that. And there you have it. Just constantly taking out the Marines of Spear of Reynor, sorry. Reynor's lock-on does not kill the medevac, which will not actually unload the main base. We'll just drift off somewhere else. The Spirit is 70 supply ahead, guys. 70. If Reynor wanted to win with a 2-base push, I think it needed to be a lot more aggressive. Which I think is hard to do on a map that's so large. But he was not doing anything for a long time. And then even longer, because his 2 medevacs were denied entry into the natural, so then he brought it back around with the main army, and then did a push and a drop. So it was even longer. It really was, it took a very long time for Reynor to do anything. And if you're going to make a 2-base attack work, I think you have to be basically just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. Just hoping that by throwing enough paper towels at your opponent, wet paper towels, they will eventually get grossed out and mess up. Reynor's going to go for a good old-fashioned drop into the main base because he's really trying to, you know, imbue the spirit of a Terran player, you know. But there are missile turrets, this time twice as many. An army prepared for the drop as well. Scan reveals a all too small army of Reynor and all too quick of a retreat. There must be something else happening. In fact, there is. Spirit was already anticipating this, even pulled up his 3rd command center as he realized what could be the very natural next step of Reynor's aggression. And I guess to continue embodying the spirit of Terran, Reynor will not tap out of a lost EPT. Because there's always that chance. There's always that chance that tanks and Marines and Doom drops can still make you win it. Reynor's gonna try and find Spirit out of position, but Spirit has the Zelnaga off the left. Not too quick to respond, though. I mean, you don't have recall, so... Kill Sun's Tower, kill a couple of SCVs. Should not be able to kill the Planetary. It doesn't kill the 5th as well. And is going to lose this battle. Upgrades favoring Spirit to the very last. GG. Spirit does take the 1-0. It's unlucky. It is unlucky for Reynor to get Terran against Spirit. If he gets Protoss, I'd still say that's unlucky. Basically, Spirit should beat 2 out of 3 of Reynor's races and has a real chance to beat his main race, too. It's not like it was against Spats. Sorry, Spats. But, you know, when Reynor got Zerg, it was like, oh, sorry, man. Even if Reynor were to get Zerg versus Spirit, Spirit defeated his Zerg a couple of weeks ago. Very convincingly. So, Reynor should be having a real tough time winning this best of 3. I think you'd have to get lucky and have the rest of the games be Zerg. And then, you know, actually win, which is not as easy. Esports dying, it feels like. I can understand. It's not so much that esports is dying. I think we do have to be very careful about our perspective, or framing. Because, really, esports just, it artificially inflated itself. And it wasn't even necessarily the esports people's problems. It was people coming into the esports atmosphere and saying, well, this could be the next big thing, so we're going to really hype it up and really exaggerate. And when they do that, then people who are in esports are going to be all too eager, out of perhaps even naiveness, to be like, yeah, of course, of course. But they always talked about the bubble popping, and I think it's, I think it popped, like someone pricked it maybe a couple of years ago, and now it's just doing this, like, sad, like, deflating noise. But I don't think it's dying. I think it's just, it's coming back to Earth, you know? It needs to get a stronger... Oh, that's unlucky. Esports needs to reset itself to where it is, and then work on improving itself correctly. But we're talking about esports. Let's talk about this game. Spirit is Terran, as always. Reynor, also rolling Terran again, is at a disadvantage. So what he's going to do, he's going to cheese. Now, Spirit does not know what his opponent has rolled. Could be Zerg, could be Protoss, could be Terran. As I was saying previously, the best thing that I think a Terran can do in this situation is 1-Rax expand and scout. There's been plenty of TVTs in the history of StarCraft 2 where 1-Rax expand player scouts, because they always should scout, and defends against a 2-Rax. It might be a little more difficult than a factory expand, but it kind of almost sometimes works out to be the same thing. The difference would be how the follow-up works out. Spirit does need to scout, though, and Spirit is currently not scouting. Oh, Spirit, that's a mistake. Oh, buddy. Okay, so he can still scout. If he scouts left, right, he'll be fine. But this is not the scout that gives me a lot of confidence. He needs to scout left to right. He's scouting across. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That's a big mistake. So, I mean, to me, I'm very much on the side of having to defend random right now. To me, this is just Spirit not scouting fast enough against a random player. You know, we're known for being cheesy. Come on. So he might die. It's not a guaranteed death, but he might die. Because his scout is so late that he can't even stop building his command center. So ideally, your scout should see the lack of barracks before your command center is placed. And if you do that at the correct scouting time, which I don't remember what it actually is on, but I think it's like when your barracks is like 1/4 done or something like that, then you'll not put a command center down, get a second gas, get a factory, get a marine, and you'll be fine. I didn't actually see what proxy timing Raynor's barracks were, to be fair. I don't know how all in this is, but already Spirit is doing a great job defending with that late of a scout, and he's actually already won. So Reaper lost by Reynor with no trade is a terrible sign. Terrible sign. Reynor's going to try and expand out of this. Spirit is not going to be too far behind, though, as he realizes, I have handled this. I don't need to worry about it. His command center does go down on the high ground. Ditto with Raynor's. Very similar game, but Spirit's factory is faster, as he spent half the amount of money into his barracks production, because he has half the barracks count. And I was, apparently I was worried for nothing. I swear to God, a 2 racks is supposed to be scary to a 1x expand player who does that. I really do. I don't... So someone back me up here. But it just doesn't look like it. It looks like this was no big deal whatsoever. Like, that's not supposed to be what happens. All right, so we'll watch this game unfold. Entirely in favor of Spirit, who has a faster starport, equally timed command center, 3 more SCVs. Is he gonna go into... Okay, all right. I was wondering with the tech up in the barracks, but he's just going to expedite his factory production. Fair enough. It's quite safe. His factory was used to build 2 Hellions, so his Cyclone is going to be later than his opponent. Reynor still has a little bit of a backstab squad, which actually might be exactly where the Hellions are good for. Spirit's trying to get a scout with his Reaper. He's completely denied, so that's something going for Reynor here, but... Well, it is kind of an important scout, because Reynor did do a 2-base attack, basically all in, last game. So he could do it again here. So Spirit would really love to see that there's a 3rd CC building. Spirit is going to run across the map with a handful of units. Kind of funny. If he... Interference Matrix is 1 Cyclone and gets a lock-on with the other Cyclone. That'd be kind of funny. This is like showing off at this point. Oh, well, the Raven got locked on, so that wasn't ideal. Okay, no. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of show-off. So Stim is on the way for Reynor already, as he does have his 3rd CC finished, whereas Spirit's actually just got delayed even further. Things do start to look up for people cheering for Reynor. Reapers get 6 SCVs plus that delay on the 3rd command center. And Spirit, as I said, was late to that stim, but there's a reason he's later to the stim. He got 2 Ravens to Raynor's 0, and he's going to go ahead and invest into Reactored Starport Liberators at this point. So not Vikings, but Liberators, which are actually... No, it's a little more expensive. Yeah, okay. But I mean, a little bit cheaper now after the patch. And he's going to just siege up Reynor. And I think this actually is not only a good move that is very unorthodox, it's just kind of one of those timings that any Terran player is going to be like, the hell? They'd be thrown off a little bit. I think it's really good against someone who doesn't main Terran, because I think it's just the most uncomfortable position that you can put someone else in. And it's a position that you can't put a Terran, a Zerg or a Protoss in the same way, especially Zerg. Right? If you ever did this versus a Zerg player, you're stupid. You're gonna lose. Reynor did a great job putting his Cyclones in a position where they could snipe a couple of units. He sniped a Raven of Spirits. That was great for him, but I still will say that this is the most uncomfortable you can put someone who is inherently not a Terran player, because it also makes a Terran player very uncomfortable. This should be doubly so. Breaking out of it is extremely difficult to do, in which case Reynor will lose the game and lose the series. Technically, he does break out of it, but not sure that was enough. 25 SCVs go down for Reynor's break. The Spirit has double the workers, only slightly lower on the army supply, running home with his Raven. All he has to do is hold, and Reynor will have a very tough time bringing this game back. Could Reynor have broken that any differently? Actually, I think he could have. I think if he had gotten his 2 medevacs out and then actually used them to come around from a different angle, the Liberators would have been mostly nullified, and then he would have gotten on top of the tanks in 2 different directions. So, yeah, I mean, that's very hindsight 2020, though. I'm not going to say that no other Terran, like no professional Terran, would have made that same type of break. I think they would have. It just was a very difficult position that Reynor already found himself in after his 2 racks failed. Well, this is a pretty good counter drop, I must say. 15 SCVs go down in the blink of an eye. The Spirit still remains ahead by 8, and now he has the better army supply. GG, Spirit will 2-0 Reynor and move on to the finals.